So, Stephanie, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Again, sort of, hey, Dennis, a bit of an administrivia. Is Alexandra going to be joining live to take note?
No.
So she's going to do it later.
Yes.
But if we do executive session, that's never going to be recorded.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah, so I think that means I get to just type away and hope for the best.
Right. And that may be fast. I mean, it may not be.
Okay.
We may not have one.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, right.
So then I won't be too fussed about minutes. We'll assume Alexander will do them retrospectively.
Okay, here's Amanda. And Amanda, you need to unmute yourself.
Yes, sorry, just dragging it over to the right monitor.
That's okay.
Greetings, Amanda.
Hello.
So we have a quorum.
Yes, I know Carol, I don't think we heard that Carol Lundeen wasn't attending. I know she was sworn in.
We have a microphone.
And John, I think John indicated he wouldn't be attending.
What about Meredith?
Did we? Meredith said she could do any day, and I didn't hear that she wouldn't be joining us.
We'll wait a couple minutes.
Yep.
How's your summer going, Mr. Sheedy?
Oh, wonderful. I know how many leaves are on the trees out back. I know how many blades of grass I have. What else you want to know? I had
Grass is all dead.
blades around me.
The grass has gone to sleep for the year.
Yeah, really.
I had to put on a virtual background because there's a margarita party going on at my pool. And I gave it up for this motley crew. My goodness.
And you didn't invite any of us? We could have joined virtually.
Last time I had people who at Sticky Fingers Ed Hands took a few things. So it left me with that damn Dean Mill elevator. So
I'm sorry about that.
that is now hoisted 22 feet in my barn. Boy, was that heavy.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely.
Hopefully we find a good home for it someday.
Do you still have, Ed, the milestone from the corner of Washington and...
Here we go. Meredith is here.
Good.
Washington and...
what is
No,
that?
we didn't move it. It's still there.
It's still there. It's in someone's planting.
Okay, cool.
I probably should have grabbed it last year. I've seen what's happening now over there, but
Yeah.
who would have thunk it?
Hey, Meredith.
Hello. Another virtual background.
Yes,
Northern Lights.
very fancy.
You know, it looks
Is that
very
Harry Potter at
psychedelic.
Universal?
Meredith, you need to unmute.
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah.
Oh, it's great to see you all.
Yeah.
You as well, Ms. Keach.
It's been a little too long.
Yeah.
Well, and since everyone's here, I'll call us to order then. Officially. Looks like 4 after. So we start, I'm gonna switch a couple things just in order. Let's do the minutes first. Start easy.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the May 19th, 2020 meeting as written.
Thank you, Dennis. Do I have a second?
Okay.
Okay. Are there any changes? Hearing none.
Oh, Jim,
Oh, yes. Go ahead.
Just because it reminded me as you were getting ready to take the vote that it would be roll call. Do you have the binder in front of you did Tish send everyone the binder with the agenda and everything in it?
I didn't receive anything.
Okay, she was going to send that.
And
All right.
agenda, but not anything else.
I have
You have the language for the remote
Electronic.
meeting instructions? The binder would be electronic. It's I'm
Okay.
sorry, I'm using
That's-
terminology that we've started using in the department. The
Okay.
electronic. If you could read the second page about the remote meeting instructions, please.
Actually, I don't have the second page. I've just got the agenda.
Okay.
So,
I'm going to
The second
share
page,
it.
Two-page agenda.
This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to share it. Yeah, it's a 2-page agenda, but do you just have 1 page?
all I have is 1 page, yes.
I'm going to share my screen and you can read the meeting instructions from my screen, okay?
Okay.
And I think what we did at that May 19 meeting was the roll call, so it's like, and I think the way we handled it was people would identify themselves, or we'd call on people so that we wouldn't talk over each other. So like, Stephanie would go Jim, and it would be Lee, yes, and Stephanie would go Ed, and it would be Hans, yes.
Right.
And that way it just helps it move really, really easy.
Okay.
We have done this, Stephanie, at our last meeting.
Right, but you have to do it at every meeting.
I have to read it. Okay.
You have to read it.
Every meeting.
Just,
Every
and I'll
meeting.
scroll up as you get to the
They
right.
won't get any sympathy from me.
Right, right. Or me. I do it for Brockton too. So.
Well, I will put on my lecture voice, so then you can wake everyone up after that, if you would. You have the electronic zapper, right, button that wakes everybody up?
No.
No?
And you can see it now, right?
Yes, I can see it. I'll read
Okay.
it. In keeping with the ongoing emergency order of Governor Charlie Baker to limit gatherings and maximize social distancing, under the legislation passed to address remote board meetings during the emergency declaration, this meeting will be conducted over Zoom. Attendance by board/commission members will be remote, and remote attendance shall count towards quorum. The meeting will be broadcast live and recorded on ECAT. To join a remote meeting using your computer, click on the URL at the top of the meeting agenda or copy it and paste it into your browser. To join a remote meeting using your phone, call the number provided underneath the URL. You will need the meeting ID to join by phone only. While conducting meetings remotely, we will endeavor to keep meeting operations as close to our standard procedures as possible. However, the use of this platform will necessitate some additional meeting protocols. This meeting is scheduled to begin at 5. We'll open at 4:45 to provide committee members, support staff, and ECAT time to sign in and prepare for the meeting. This meeting will be held in the Zoom webinar format. All will join the meeting muted, with trustees elevated to panelists with video and audio. Public participants are requested to stay muted until such time as they are recognized by the chair to speak in order to minimize background noise. To be recognized, please use the raise hand function or make the request via chat. If you are joining by phone, you can press 9 to raise your hand. When starting testimony, please state your name and address for the record. As in any public meeting, indecent behavior will not be tolerated, and anyone who abuses the use of the meeting platform will be terminated from the meeting. All votes will be taken via roll call. When all business on the agenda has been completed, trustees will vote to adjourn the meeting, signaling the end of the meeting and the termination of ECAT recording. All participants will be disconnected from the meeting at that time.
Okay. So I'm sorry, you can continue the vote on the minutes.
That's good. All in favor, so we have to do it one by one. Lee, aye.
Range aye.
Hands abstain?
GDI.
Marilla, aye.
Each abstain.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't present, so that's an abstention, correct?
Right.
Yeah, okay.
You can actually vote on it if you've read them.
No, I'll
Because-
I'll abstain, yeah.
Yeah, it's fine.
You know, if there's like a quorum issue or something where you
Got
need
it.
yeah.
Okay.
So remind me, organization of board, that was the first item on the agenda, Stephanie.
That's the annual vote for officers.
Okay,
And I'm sorry if everyone heard that motorcycle going by the windows outside.
Sounded like moaning voices and that with Meredith as the background. I'm getting scared.
and we did lose our officers. Since Lee Williams was the recorder, what was he official title? But so I'm happy to relinquish the chair's position
Oh,
if you want.
It's a lifetime appointment.
yes.
It's a life. And this is a life? I don't know.
So you're looking for
I will we call it a
nominations?
life estate.
I nominate Jim Lee to be chair.
Second.
Second.
Yeah, move this thing along. There's a margarita with my name out there.
That's, yeah. The railroad train is coming.
Yeah.
Anyone else? What about the chairman and vice chairman? That currently is held by Greg Strange.
I nominate Greg
Second.
Strange to be vice president, vice chair.
Vice chair, second.
It's the greatest day of my life.
Have another margarita.
Yeah.
I haven't had one yet. I knew I'd get in
And-
trouble if I did, so.
Does the CPC need a secretary or anything like that? Is that
I think that's what Lee or
Yes.
John.
Yeah, Lee had
was.
some-
Like recording clerk or recording sec,
Right.
but
And
they
that was-
didn't,
Does zero recording.
right, because we do that with,
Actually, Lee was in that position and did actually function a few times when we didn't have ECAT and we didn't have secretarial.
oh, Carolyn Dean is in.
What's the plan for replacing Lee?
They actually had candidates who submitted their request to be appointed. And the select board went through the interview process and made an appointment, and that individual subsequently, after accepting the position, stepped down.
Oh,
So now we're back where we were.
how insulting.
Sounds like our former town planner.
What? Oh, which one? Which one?
Not you came back.
Hi, Carol. Sorry, I didn't see you over in the.
I guess we're gonna have to do
there.
some digging online to find
problem.
out who that was.
We are in the process of
Can't gossip.
reviewing leadership of the group. And so far, the only nominees are myself for chair and Greg Strange for vice chair. If you wish to put yourself forward, please feel free. And we have one other position also, which is the secretary. So does anyone want secretary's role, or should we leave it empty for now?
I think there's a new person coming on soon, isn't there?
You vote that person in?
I'll do a random selection on my computer.
No!
Oh, look at this sheet. I had the Hollywood Squares version, and or the Brady Bunch, and Peter Brady just got the job.
Geez, how prescient was that, huh? The Hollywood Squares, and now here we are.
So, shall we just proceed with the two positions at this point, or does anyone want to have the august position of secretary?
Considering we don't, we have usually we have someone who does the recording. It's not essential, and I guess if nobody wants it, we'll figure it out if there's a night we need to do it.
Right.
Okay.
This week.
Shall we move to a vote?
I thought we did that already.
Yeah. Let's do it for the record.
So do we need a motion on this, or are we already in a motion?
So what I've got is a motion by Strange and a second by Keach for Jim Lee as chair, and a motion by Sheedy and a second from Hands for Strange as vice chair. Discussion for the clerk secretary position to be left vacant. And then we'd go to a roll call vote. I believe it could be well, actually, we should probably do it too, right? Because we had two different motions, 2 different seconds.
Well, you could do it as a slate.
Yeah.
Read the slate.
All right.
How do we go?
Okay. Lee, aye.
Strange eye.
Varela, aye.
Sheedy, aye. Hands, aye.
Lundin, aye.
Did we get Varela in there?
I think Varela and Keach said aye at the same time.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. So the next item is
Sounds like a peacock in the background.
That's my dog whining.
Oh.
a letter of thanks and recognition to Lee Williams. This is Ed Hands reminding us of that. Thank you, Ed. I think we could draft it, but I do want to have a vote. So can we have a motion to acknowledge the contribution of 2 decades, roughly, to Lee Williams?
So
Moved. Second.
Lee, aye.
Strange eye.
Varela, aye.
Hands, aye.
Sheedy, aye.
Each eye.
Lundin, aye.
Okay. That makes it official, thank you.
Jim, did you say, did I mishear this or make it up? Did you say 2 decades?
I think so.
Okay.
He was pretty close to the beginning of.
Yeah, no, I'm just, I want to make, yeah.
And I just wanted to say, maybe when that letter goes out, I have a gift I've been making. I was going to give from the board to Lee. It's made from all of the wood from all the historic properties that he donated money to, gave time to, all CPA projects. So
That's an awesome.
Excellent. Oh, that's
I'll actually have that ready in about a week. So just whoever handles it, just give me a heads up and I'll drop this off to you. So we can, or however it's getting to him, so we can give it to him. I wish I could get more detail, but just in case he watches this, I don't want to. Okay. I like to think he's spending more time in his garden than watching this riveting TV.
Let's hope.
Well, thank you for doing that, Dave. Okay. We have our annual brouhaha over community preservation coalition dues.
Maybe in honor of Lee, we should vote him out this year.
What is the amount this year?
Hold on, I'm scrolling to get it. I should have had this queued up. Okay, let's see. All right, the dues are $4,350.
Oh, they went down.
Were they higher? That sounds about right. The
I
last.
always thought they were $5,000 and they went to like 62 last year.
Well, I would round that up to 5,000. I mean,
Yeah.
But
I think you probably did round it up in your head. I
What
think
do
it
we
was
get for
around
that?
that last time.
Yeah, the
Let
question,
me tell you about these dues.
what do we get from $5,000 a year?
And I know Greg has talked to this and Wayne has. We get several things. I mean, we have access to their website, and of course, one of the questions that has been asked is, do you have access if you're not a dues paying member? And the answer is yes, but we do use it. We do refer to it to see. They provide information on other projects that have been approved or where there's a question of whether a project is eligible for the categories of funding. One of the things they do, and I don't know if we've mentioned this in the past, we do not have, Wendy sends information every year on the projects that have been completed, that have been approved for funding. And I think she sends it to the state. I think it's a state requirement. And the coalition pulls that information together for all communities, and they keep a running database, which alleviates the responsibility for us to do that. So that's a time saver on our part. It also is kind of a promotional piece because people do go out and they look to see how other communities are doing with their CPA funds and projects. And we have quite a substantial number of projects there. And advocacy.
Could I have a motion, since we're already discussing?
I'll make a motion to approve $4,350 for the annual dues for the Community Preservation Coalition.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Okay, now we're official. So, does anyone have reservations about this? Or shall we just move to a vote?
I don't know much about it. I don't know if the town has ever gone without that membership.
I think the board voted against it in one year. Do you think they
Or at least in the years I've been on it. I don't know, at least the last 10 years.
In a pandemic year, would it behoove us to maybe this year, given so little is coming in, to maybe use this as an opportunity to save a few bucks?
Well, you have, and I didn't actually run the numbers, but you do have this comes out of your administration money. So that money is set aside for administrative costs. It doesn't get rolled back into your potential project costs. So, and you get that every year. It's a percentage. I think Wayne, is it 10% of the?
I think it's 5.
Yeah, I forget the percentage. I believe the Easton CPC has north of $4 million in available funds.
So it would be, but your administrative funds are calculated on an annual basis.
And I just feel like everything is limping along so much. If we were to pull out now just for this year, would it really truly negatively impact us? I mean, so much of everything we do is basically triaged right now. Just a thought.
Again, this money doesn't, it can't be put back into the general fund.
But it could be used next year for membership fees, right?
It could be, yes.
I think that we do rely on the information, we use it. I think that is some obligation to pony up our share.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good resource, and I understand what Meredith is saying, and I certainly have been one of the leaders on this board and looking for fiscal responsibility the last few years, but, haven't been successful with that. And this is just a deck chair on the Titanic as far as I'm concerned, after I look what we spend sometimes and don't really worry about it. So I don't know what we gain by not doing it, other than, why weaken the coalition? They do good work.
Fair enough.
Seems like we're at a point to vote. Lee, aye.
Strange eye.
Varela, I.
DDI.
Anne's eye.
Each eye.
Lundin, aye.
Am I messing up the eyes? I think I missed that part. I'm like waiting for someone else to. Are we supposed to go in a specific order?
Not really. I found with my meetings, it can be more helpful to just call on people. But,
Okay.
you know, people can just pipe up if they feel so moved. It'll all work
Okay.
out.
One way would be to go in order of how you see people, but I understand that the order I see you in is different.
Yeah,
how you might see
I
people.
had that brainwave several meetings ago, and then I realized, oh, but everyone's order is different on their screen.
Stephanie, you're either Paul Lind or Alice the Cleaner, so I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
It's on the show.
Okay, the next section is the plan, which has been delayed, as everything else has been delayed. We really haven't looked at this for a while. This is the CPC plan for 2020, which we have to get done in the next few months, or we'll have to change the title. About the only thing that the subcommittee, which was illustrious folks that have worked on it, have been working on was the application process, and we did discuss that last, 2 meetings ago, I believe. We need to have some updates, and I guess that's coming actually off the coalition website on the projects that have been done since the last iteration of the plan. So we're kind of at a point where I think we can pull this together and share a draft plan with everyone. Give time to look at it, and then maybe take some action on it, do some editing, and then perhaps even approve it. So I don't know if you remember the changes that we've gone through on that plan, but the main changes were backing things a little earlier to start, and having the initial offering be a letter of interest that we review and discuss, and then we invite people to submit full applications. That's kind of the major change in the process.
And Jim, would
Yes.
the board invite everyone, or is that part of the process? The process is for the board to decide which projects have greater merit and then invite those in for greater scrutiny.
I think that is the focus of this, yes.
Yeah.
Which reduces some undue burden on those projects that would not likely receive a lot of support. The other aspect of it is to really try to foster a greater interaction on the part of those boards that have jurisdiction over the content, historical, Concom, and affordable housing. You get a lot more information earlier in the process to them, and a lot more feedback from them into this, so that the proposals that come to us have more substance. And again, it would reduce the likelihood that people would put a lot of effort and expense into this and then not receive a positive response. And I think that Wayne actually wasn't a lot of this your idea, that initial screen?
Yeah, it was sort of riffing on what Massachusetts Historical Commission does. They have they invite general letters of interest and then invite full applications from the most competitive or compelling proposed projects. And one of the things that I think this group in Easton was trying to solve was, how do you work with worthy, less professional applicants, especially who are doing construction or restoration projects, to actually get an application with the plans and specs and budget that this group can in fact evaluate and monitor and enforce as the project goes forward. So there was a discussion that possibly some projects might be two-part. Maybe the first half is, well, what you really need to do is look at what you've got, do your plans and specs, do a budget, and then come to us for your construction funds, something like that. But explicitly to give an opportunity for this group to provide more guidance and detailed feedback to help shape really competitive applications and more successful projects ultimately.
One of my concerns when we started this process was that we were going to be shutting out some of the small-time local projects, and I think this speaks to that very well. It's a great idea. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the draft looks like.
Okay. Good.
Okay, may I just ask who is the keeper of the draft? Wayne, I presume, yeah, okay.
He has
So
a
are you-
recent version.
Will you be getting that out to everybody?
Let's talk about it. I'm not sure that its current condition is really ready for prime time because we need to update the project list. We need to revisit the entire financial section, which in the original plan from 5-6 years ago was a snapshot in time and may not actually be, it's a very detailed snapshot of the finances in 2015. So is a plan with detailed finances from 2020 all that helpful in
Right.
2023 and 2024?
So-
So sort of conceptually, but anyway, Stephanie and I can talk about that and
Yeah.
probably get something a little more useful.
Yeah, and I would suggest, Wayne and I had talked about that a little bit, that maybe even having the finances in there, because usually the plan is kind of a guidance document on how you assess projects and determine what their priority is, what their consistency is with the goals of the plan. And you don't necessarily have a full financial breakdown that's a snapshot in time. And at any point through the process of evaluating projects, we would have Wendy come in and give you folks, usually probably at the beginning, give you a status on what the financial situation looks like and what your buying power is. And certainly at any point, if something came up like a priority project that wasn't expected, have a consultation with the finance director.
Okay, so you're suggesting to take that information out?
It gets stale very quickly, it would seem.
Yeah, it's physically it's a sizable, like half page or more, and I think it might be more useful to be a descriptive paragraph, and your snapshot would be as of FY21. Easton has 4.1 million in CPA reserves, so much escrowed for debt service. Historically, X percentage in state match anticipated going forward, so that you'll maybe have a very short, high-level snapshot of what's happening in FY21 without it being very stale information about project by project or account by account by account, which is just not relevant 2 years from now.
And what probably, again, is more helpful, and we've done in past years, is providing that annual financial update, looking at all the projects that are currently being funded, what the balance is, what is being paid for in debt, what the debt service life is for each project that has been funded through bonds.
Okay. That's fine. As long as the document does include a complete list of completed projects, funded projects, I think that would be a useful appendix, perhaps. But it's nice to see all of that together.
Yeah, it's a good advocacy document to have that list of everything that this group has done for the town.
Right. Okay. One of the things we should do is the document does address priorities. We really haven't changed that much. But just go through when we get a draft and make sure you're comfortable with that statement. Okay. So I guess, Wayne, you're up. This is the update on the rental assistance program.
Right, so in May, the Affordable Housing Trust allocated $80,000 of trust funds for an emergency rental assistance grant program. After working out the program details with town council, we contracted with a nonprofit group called Metro West Collaborative Development to be the administrator of the grant project or the grant program, to accept applications, to educate prospective applicants, to income qualify them. The program now works such that there is a three-way participation agreement between Metro West as the administrator, the tenant as a participant, the landlord as the entity which receives the funds. The funds are for 3 months, paid monthly. 800 for a 1-bedroom, 900 for a 2-bedroom, 1,000 for a 3-bedroom. The application period ran for 3 weeks. It closed yesterday. I was out of town last week, and right now the executive director for Metro West is out of town this week. When she and I had a conversation last Thursday, she said they had received over 40 inquiries, but only 4 applications at that point. Anecdotally, she has seen in other towns there can be some slowness in uptake of such programs for a variety of reasons. One, a lot of folks in financial difficulties are receiving unemployment checks with the bonus. And have been using that to make the rent payments. 2, it can take a while for the news of the program to filter out, for people to understand it, and it can take a while for people to actually respond. A lot of applications are received towards the end of the application period. So we will keep running with the already allocated 80 grand until that's expended. And next week, Stephanie and myself and Metro West are going to have a conference, or the week after when Stephanie's back in the office, to sort of debrief on how the program's running, see if there are things that we can or need to or are able to change to make it more usable for folks, and possibly revise things based on that. Because secondarily, you'll remember, and thank you very much, the CPC recommended and town meeting very generously approved an additional $250,000 for rental assistance at the June 22nd town meeting. And before we start signing contracts with anyone for that money, we want to make sure it is in fact needed, being spent effectively, if there are better ways that we can direct funds as part of this program. So we want to sort of see how this pilot phase, this first phase, has run, and to learn some lessons from that and see if we need to change anything. And there's also a very strong suspicion that as the unemployment has now expired, we're likely to see a lot more people much more interested in accessing these funds. So it may well change in the weeks ahead, but we're holding off a bit before we fully commit the additional money. Make sure we're doing it in a responsible and useful way.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Apparently you did a fabulous job.
Thank you.
Okay. We need to look at the meeting schedule for the rest of the year. Are we comfortable with meeting once a month? And is this time and day a good one? Thursday, 5-ish?
For me, later is better. later in the evening?
Yeah, sports actually, they just came out with the sports are back for kids. So later will probably be better with 3 kids playing sports. 5 might become tough soon.
But is the second Thursday good for people? Because that's what this would be. This is the second Thursday, and on the third Thursday of the month, I have another commitment.
I have no objection to the date, but I think a slightly later time would allow the public to attend if we
Yeah.
had something on the agenda.
Yeah.
Slightly later being what, Carol, would work well.
6 or 6:30?
Okay.
Have we had applications come in for this year? No, nothing.
Have you solicited?
No, we've not. We want to finalize, we had discussed previously sort of sitting this year out while we revise the overall plan and the application process, and then be much more intentional with soliciting applications with a new process. So there's a good chance that we may not actually be soliciting this calendar year at all. It might be a next year thing.
Okay. So there will probably be not too much on our agenda then.
But it could be helpful to
Can you
discuss the CPA plan, make sure we have something
And the
set up for
process.
that,
Right.
the application process. Perhaps have Wendy give an overview again of our finances if folks are interested. And what I've done with some other boards and commissions that I support is if there's really nothing going on, we just, send out an email beforehand saying, yeah, guess what, there's nothing on the agenda, let's just skip it this month.
Or if there is something on the agenda, the meeting can be nice and quick and everyone can go back to their margarita parties. Greg's not smiling.
There's any left?
I'm gonna
Greg,
sleep the last
Greg,
time.
can you hear us?
Oh, I can hear you. This is the humdinger. I can miss this one. Or this background, I think, has me.
Pretty wonderful. I heard 6 o'clock is the time that could work, the second Thursday at 6 p.m.
This is the 17th?
And would that be for September?
September, hold on.
17, yeah.
Yes. No, the 10th.
10th, okay.
The 10th is the second.
You're right.
And what time? I'm sorry, 6 or 6?
6.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
And so I'll have Tish set up a recurring meeting for the second Thursday of each month at 6 o'clock.
Okay. That sounds good. And we can always adjust if it needs to be adjusted in terms of time and day.
Oh, and if I could mention, I mean, one other
Yes.
thing, the reason we had Wayne do a project update today was because, I'm sorry, Wayne, it was timely because the program was just announced and because it's related to COVID, but also because it was somewhat easy to do. But I think one of the things we talked about doing back before I left was having updates from the different active projects proponents on where the project is and how they're doing.
Okay. And we still have some active projects, yes.
Yes. And then we will have more. So,
Right. We're planning for that. Let's discuss this land acquisition. If you want to give us an overview, please, Stephanie, that would help.
So I'm going to share the screen again. I'm going to share a map. And some of the board members, if not most, should, let's see, share right here. Okay, can everyone see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and I will actually zoom out just a little bit. So, gosh, I think it was 2 years ago, at least now, we brought these parcels to the attention of the Community Preservation Committee. They're located on Randall Street. The large parcel and these two smaller parcels I'm showing here are jointly owned by the remaining members of two families. The children of two families. The parents had owned these co-jointly, and they had passed on in ownership to two brother and sisters from two different families. We have been, and one of the families are the Delaney's, Mary Delaney. They have been contacting us, Mary Delaney and her husband, for a number of years about donating these three parcels to the town because they've been paying taxes on them. The other family also has been contributing, as we understand it, to the tax bill. Mary Delaney's brother has not. So that's been made up by Mary Delaney and her husband, John Doyle. The way they tell it, John Grant had been in constant communication over the years with the Delaney's mother, and it was always her desire for the town to get this land and for it to be donated, but that never happened. And we have, you can see that a plan was created that shows two potentially developable lots. I don't think the wetlands, which are these lighter areas here, this is based on the Mass GIS data layer, and it's an approximation of where the wetland line is. In most cases, the wetland line is generally larger, and I don't think they ever had it delineated. They might have, but it's probably been 10 years since the lots were configured. The other family, the Polanos, who own these lots in ownership, own these lots with the Delaney's, own this parcel outright, the Polano family. So the last time we talked about this with the CPC, it was about possibly approaching the Polanos about maybe purchasing this land for housing, and it would give us better access here. The lots could probably be reconfigured, maybe get a couple of houses for affordable unit, and then this land would be added to the Clifford Grant Management Area, which is what you see here in orange. We sent them a letter letting them know we were interested in having a discussion. It took them a while to respond. When they responded, we got back to them, and it kind of took a long time to hear back. I guess the Polano sister died in the meantime. While I was gone, they came back and approached the town and said, gee, we'd be interested in talking about possibly selling the land. So that's, they did send an appraisal, but it's probably quite high. But in any case, this is the land that's being proposed. I think the things that so Jim, do you want to kind of take it from there? You and I had talked a little.
That's fine. I think the process, as I see it, would be for us first to set a time and do some walking, go look at the land, and so get our mind around the connection with the Clifford Grant area and potentially the use of this for affordable housing. Kind of get an idea if that makes sense to us, and then we would. The next step in the process is we're required to have an appraisal done, and then we would have to pay for that. So that would have to be something done at a subsequent meeting. So at this point, I guess I want some feedback as to whether or not this seems to make sense and something we should approach. We've talked about it, but it's been a couple of years. And then to try to schedule a walking of that property.
Didn't I hear they wanted to donate it?
Originally they did, and that is off the table at this point in time. And there are some reasons on their end primarily.
Okay, so here's my concern. In the 10 years I've been on this commission, I've seen the process become more and more burdensome and very expensive. So often we always talk about priority parcels, which are always just open space development. It had nothing to do with, affordable housing or any other type of development, because we're not the development business. So I see a big chunk of this that isn't developable because it's soaking wet, so it really has very little value. So if we went in and got that for short money, I'm all for that. That's great. Let's continue to get open space. But when I hear, oh, we want to do a couple of affordable units or this or that, and I know that land pretty well. I know the process, what it takes to develop it from my experience at the planning board. And I also know how things become incredibly slow and expensive when they are developed by municipalities. 300 Foundry Street, for example. And that's not a shot at anybody participating in this meeting. That's just process. But just like when we talked about back in May, about we're going to help all the renters and we're going to pay 20% of what we were donating was going to go to administrative costs of a nonprofit. And so, yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine with grabbing a piece of wet land that we can get for short money. But the other part, if they're going to develop 2 or 3 or 4 acres, better ways that if we want to create affordable units, there are better ways that we can do public-private partnerships instead of buying a piece of land that we're going to pay too much for because we're going to get it appraised, and then I'm going to hear the people say, well, we have to go with the highest appraisal so we don't get sued, which is so counterintuitive to everything. Appraisals are subjective, and then we're gonna end up giving it away to Habitat for Humanity or something. But we're gonna pay an awful lot for money, awful lot for a little bit of land that we have flexible development tools. We have other ways to do that we've done, frankly, a good job with the town for creating affordable units that don't cost the town anything and actually benefits the town and result in mitigation when we can get them through boards and not stalled at boards. That's good. So anyway, I'll get off my horse. But
Yeah, I just want to say one thing about the appraisal process. The appraisal process is actually to protect the town from paying too much. It establishes more of a ceiling than as...
Never how it's been in the last 5 properties we've looked at. We know all the things that have been said in executive session, and I won't get into it here, but that is not how it's been presented at all. I strongly disagree with that statement.
Well,
I agree with you, that's how it's supposed to be. That's not how it's been. That is not how it's been.
Can I chime in?
Yes, please.
I don't think it's a great time for their town to be buying land right now. It's a seller's market, and unless this were a parcel that were one that we, absolutely had to have, but you're gonna pay an outrageous premium for it, like numbers we've never seen before, because that's what the real estate market is at. They are complete numbers that we've never seen before, and the inventory, certainly land, is so unbelievably low in inventory that in 20 years I'm seeing numbers that I would never have thought I would have saw. So I think for that reason, it's just simply not a great time to buy real estate as a government entity.
so Meredith, and I'm not advocating for this property or not. And again, I think it's important to understand where it fits in with the overall goals of the town. And I understand if it's a real seller's market right now, that means the seller has the advantage. And you just said that the prices that you're seeing are at an all-time high over the past 20 years. Do you think that will be less in the future?
Well, if I had a crystal ball, but I don't really, and so this is all guesstimation, but, and this is not a political statement, but typically in any election year, the real estate market feels a tremendous amount of volatility. Mm-hmm. There was something that happened last night where FHA, it's basically mortgage industry just took a hit last night. This comes out of nowhere. You get a lot of political posturing, and the real estate market is the front line of the economy, and the real estate market feels everything. I would anticipate volatility through the election, and perhaps in February, once a new or not new administration is in place, that by February, it will start to level off. The Fed has told us that they will keep interest rates low, and everything that I'm talking about, even though it would be a cash purchase on our end, is going to keep the real estate market very robust. And rates down. The Fed will keep the rates down, and so that will keep a strong real estate market, which is essential for the whole economy. So to answer your question, we don't anticipate a downturn anytime soon. And so that will continue to be a seller's market for quite some time. And Easton is a really sought after town. I mean, I'm proud of that. It is really sought after. People are coming from all over. Our newest crossover, which we have, is people are coming from north of Boston, which is fascinating because previous to this, you can cross over lines and cross Boston and come to our area. But those prices have gone up even farther than ours, that folks from there are coming out here, and certainly there's an exodus from the city, as New York is seen as well. It's not a mass exodus yet, but we are starting to see that come into play. So to answer your question, I don't see these prices going down anytime soon. Certainly, there could be a global pandemic, and that might.
Yeah. Well, there was. There was, Meredith, and they haven't come down. So
yeah.
But, yeah. And I promise I'll be more succinct. But Stephanie, think of the tools that we have in our bylaws. And again, if this was just a property that was totally wet and wasn't developable, then sure, we'd get it appraised because it's only going to appraise for so much. But what really makes me hesitate is when I hear we're going to go into the development business, because I don't really approve of the way we've done that as a town. I think, and especially, we're shooting ourselves in the foot. We have created, you've been there, you've crafted these bylaws with us. We have a bylaw, we have several bylaws in place that, first of all, that parcel that's wet is never going to get, it's not going to get dry. It's
right.
It's not going to get built. So it's
right,
already,
which is another reason.
Protected. So if someone wanted to come in and really quickly, it looks like there was maybe 4 or 5 acres or something. So if someone, that could result in, a couple affordable units that don't cost the town a penny, and we get the giant chunk for free, and I want us to explore that. I think, even if we don't get it for 10 years, Meredith's right. I mean, the suburbs are going to be hot. COVID's here for a couple of years. People, have now realized they're going to be doing what we're doing. They don't need to, they don't need to live near their work anymore. That's going to continue. And we have a great community here. We know that, but we also know, I'm sorry. I just think we really have spent quite a bit of money in the last few years in ways I wish we hadn't. And I want us to have money to do projects like the town hall and things like that, and Oaks Ames Hall and whatever else comes up. I just see this. We already have tools in place that can deliver this property to us. Maybe not right now, but sometime in the near future for free. And I'm all for free.
And
I think that's a good point.
Sorry, one more piece on pricing here. So buildable lots in Easton are starting around $225. That's a start.
Bargain. Where are those?
we're looking at some big money for if there are in fact a few buildable lots here, like a lot of money. And so, yeah.
I mean, and you can look at the shape of the lots. I don't have it up now, but I think this was squeezing even that out. So I don't know that these would be the most desirable lots, but I'm not advocating one way or the other for the acquisition. I do want to note that the town has not developed these parcels themselves. And you mentioned when building affordable units, what the town does is go out with an RFP and turn it over to the best qualified individuals to construct that housing, like Habitat for Humanity or BAMSI for the.
Ed, I think you were in first.
I'd like to hear from Wayne before I say anything.
Okay.
I just did want to clarify something that in conversations from my side of the trust, the housing component at most would be like one cape on that small front parcel. That would be it, and mostly as a way to get another unit of family housing and to help out on acquisition costs. The trust has never envisioned a larger development beyond that.
I'd like to say it never cost anything to look. It sounds from the narrative that Stephanie presented that at some point we could have gotten this land for free with a donation if we just were a little more interested. Maybe we could be a little more interested now. It doesn't mean we have to buy anything.
Yeah, and Ed, to be clear, actually, the problem with the donation, and I wasn't clear about this, the problem with the donation wasn't on our end. It's tied up with the fact that the Polanos weren't interested in donating the land, and the brother. Only Mary Delaney and her husband were interested in really donating the land and pushing for that. And that provides another advantage to the town because you've got these, it's an advantage, it's also a conundrum. You have these parties that are holding this land and they have had a very difficult time coming to an agreement on the value of the land and what to do with it. I would agree. I don't think this is, one, you've got 23 acres that are essentially undevelopable unless you come in up off the road and go up and around. And even then, for the acreage of land, you're not going to get a number of units that might make it worthwhile for a developer. So I think that if there's interest in on the town side, sorry, that was another motorcycle. On the town side, I think you're more in the driver's seat than the seller for these particular lots. But again, that's just been based on the conversations I've had over the years where they haven't been able to come to agreement on what to do with the land and move on it.
So again, as Ed would point out, we're not purchasing this land. We're right now thinking about that process, a possibility. And my recommendation would be what Ed was saying is let's go have a look. Let's put boots on the ground. I have not seen them. Others perhaps have been on that property. But,
Are we gonna know the asking price before we go out?
They haven't come to us with an
I mean, that's
asking
the
price.
first, that's where you start. Because I mean, if it's crazy, then we know not to do it.
I wonder, has the option been explored that we would accept a donation of the large lot, the 23 acres?
Well, that's what I was just talking about, Carol, that was what one of the members of the ownership parties wanted to do, but couldn't get the other owners to agree.
Okay.
Well, it would seem to me that there's that potential value, according to Meredith, in these house lots on the other part of the property. Maybe if that was presented in a proper way, we could solve that problem without having to buy the house lots that we don't necessarily think we can afford to pay for. So I'm all for exploring it. And I'm personally mostly interested in the 23 acres of wetland to add to the Grant Reservation as open space. if we can get that at a reasonable price, that might work more efficiently than buying house lots.
Has anybody had a discussion with the owners about some of the new federal programs that are out there? Tax relief when you give large parcels of open space that is potentially developable, that you give it up?
New programs? I'm not familiar with new programs.
You know, this is what I think is missing sometimes. We used to have Lee and we had John Grant. These guys would go out and talk to the property owners, and you know, the community would do some of the work here, and then we would, you know, and then we would have it figured out, instead of we would take this big official route and everything has to be, you know, all it seems to do is create really long process and really expensive prices. Why don't they, someone should recommend they should look into donating those 23 acres, because they're, you know, this doesn't give them any leverage. And then they can, you know, because if any developer is going to look at that, they're going to, if they're savvy enough and understand our bylaws, they would see what they could carve out of those 4 to 8 acres that look like they were uplands, and then they would leverage it by speaking with conservation and open space advocates and say, and affordable housing advocates, and say, look, wow, we could do a 8-lot conventional subdivision. Well, by your bylaw, that's an affordable unit right there. But because we have over 35% open space, there's an extra unit, and we could, you know, and if we could use a lot transfer bonus, so you know, they could end up getting, you know, and they could end up getting some developable units, and the town could get 2 or 3 affordable units out of it that wouldn't cost us a penny. That's what I'd like to see. We've worked with professional, we've worked with the people who have written most of the Massachusetts zoning over the last 5 years, and we've created great programs. And I'm kind of perplexed why we're not pushing in that direction, so that it costs us zero to get the land.
And to agree with Greg.
I think for once I agree with Greg.
Oh, you would agree with me more than once. You just don't want to say it publicly.
I think we're in trouble.
Yeah, I think at this point, you know, when Jim and I talked, because Jim's suggestion was going to be to go out and walk the land and look at it and then have a discussion. I think at this point, if you're going to continue in the discussion, you probably should go into executive session.
So, what's your preference? Do that now, or go out and look at the land and then consider it at our next meeting?
I'd like to see the land. I haven't been over in that part of the area in a while.
We could try to set something up. We need to look at schedules and see what's possible in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't going anywhere.
Mhm.
You know, this
Right.
land isn't going anywhere fast, so you certainly have time.
Should someone endeavor to reach out and see what their asking price is also? It's one thing to look at the land, but if you don't know what's, you know, when you shop for cars, you have an idea what the sticker is. It should be the same for land.
Well, we're going to have to ask permission to go on the property, so I think that would be an ideal time to do a little preliminary discussion.
Yeah,
I agree with you.
Whoever the point person should certainly.
Again, if you want to go into executive session, because I think we're entering into that ground, as I said, they did do an appraisal, and I think we could look at that as a starting point. I was told that wasn't necessarily what they were looking for.
We go into an executive session so we can have a conversation about what those numbers are? Or is that?
That's fine.
Yeah, I mean, we had planned, we have it on the agenda, and you folks, what's going to have to happen from a logistical standpoint is we're going to have to, the committee's going to need to vote via roll call to go into an executive session, not to return to open meeting. And we close out this meeting and go into the other Zoom room which you have the link to, and continue an executive session there where there will be no members of the public allowed, and there will be no ECAT recording.
Was that the invitation we got this afternoon?
The second one, yeah.
I'll make a motion to go into executive session.
And not
That's return. Second.
And you, Jim, do you want to call the roll call on that one?
Yes. All right. Lee, aye. Ed?
Aye.
Greg?
Aye.
Dennis? Dennis?
Dennis, aye. Sorry, I was muted.
All right. Meredith?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
Amanda?
Aye.
All right.
I'm going to get that meeting started.
And
You
I don't
have
have the link, Stephanie, if you could shoot that to me, please.
Was that Wayne?
Yeah, it was, yes.
Could someone send that to Wayne, because it will take me a minute to find it and I want to get the other meeting open.
Excuse me, technically, you're gonna have to amend your motion.
To have Stephanie and Wayne present.
Oh,
Exactly.
yes, thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Okay. So with that, do I have a second?
Second.
And we have to vote over again. Aye.
Aye.
Ed? Dennis?
Sheedy, aye.
Amanda?
Aye.
Meredith?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
All right. Thanks, Wayne.
And Wayne, I've got it
So
up. and
just
I
to be
can send
clear,
it
I'm
to
looking
you.
for the link now.
I've got it.
Oh, I see it. Okay.
Besides Wayne need it?
Does everyone have it and someone will forward it to Wayne, please? Greg's
Doing it now.
already jumped off. Do I have an eye on that one, that someone will forward it to Wayne? Okay, sorry, Amanda, thank you. I will see you in a minute.